size. So I was able to lay it out nice and figure out exactly where everything was going to fit before I started making serious commitments to how things were going to run. Next was attaching the, I'll call it all thread. It's really threaded rod to the base. And I used 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood and then just with holes drilled through it, bolted it down with the, or tightened it down with nuts and washers. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what it looked like when we started building this thing. I initially went with just 4 sets of rods, but with a 1/2 inch sub road bed, it was sagging a little bit in between. So I added 4 more. So I've got 8 of them on there. And the risers are just right here, are nothing more than 1/4 inch plywood with holes drilled in them. I think I do now suffer from carpal tunnel by putting all these God bless it nuts on here, but it turned out to be a pretty good way to go and not terribly difficult to do. After I did this, I put the first layer of track on, cork road bed and then track, and just started building it up. The nice thing about it was when I got it all done, I actually screwed the grate up on one of the levels. And all I had to do was loosen a few nuts and readjust, and everything was back in form. Didn't have to take anything apart. Didn't really have too much of a problem at all. And this is what the completed helix looks like sitting in place. So worked out pretty good. This 3rd layer here is where I actually screwed up. You can see some of the wiring on here. I have 2 expansion joints on each loop. So I have on the right side and the left side, as you face it here, I have feeder wires that either go down for the bottom 3 levels or up for the top 3 levels. And that seems to, the testing I've done on it, I'm still early in construction of the whole layout, but the testing on it electrically, everything is going really good. Another nice benefit that I wound up with at the end of the day was on top of the helix is going to be an iron ore mine, and the ore yard is sitting right where the helix is. And I need to figure out, okay, do I want to build a superstructure around this thing, or what am I going to do? And I'm sitting in Home Depot one day and I came up with a 3/4 inch angle iron and ran it across the 3/8 inch, and that holds that upper ore yard in place absolutely perfect with just a few nuts and washers. Right now I have just half of the plywood in because I got to finish extending the track, so on and so forth. But when it's all said and done, it'll be covered, and all I'll have to do is I'll hide some of the all thread and nuts with scenery, and other ones I'll just cut off. But that basically is the helix. I'd never done this before. I didn't know if I wanted to do this, and it wound up being quite a rewarding project really at the end. It was kind of fun to do. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. I went ahead and I put a PDF in the chat that you could download that are the components of his project if you're interested.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to, if anybody wants the specs or any of the information, just feel free to contact me and I'll just email it out to you. It's no big deal.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you put your contact information in the chat, or is it on the PDF that?
I'll put it in the chat. No problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. Where are you located?
I'm in Villa Park.
Villa Park.
If nobody knows where Villa Park is, because nobody knows where Villa Park is, everybody knows where Disneyland is. We're 6 miles directly east of Disneyland, just off the 55 in Catella, if you're familiar with the area.
Okay, okay, I know where that
The
is.
55 in Catella. Every time there's a fire, I get to smell it.
So are you talking about Disneyland in California, or?
Yeah, Disneyland in California. Yeah. Yeah, it's Villa Park is a very small community by Southern California standards. There's about 6,500 people in it. And it's probably, in the sporting world, it's probably most known as the home of Bert Blyleven and the Boone family.
Okay.
They're both out of this area, but otherwise, it's just a little quiet community for the most part that nobody knows about, and that's the way I like it.
Good.
All right. Thank you, John. All
You
right.
bet.
All right. So we're ready to move on to the next show and tell, and that would be Tim Can. Are you ready, Tim?
Yeah, I am.
You are up.
My layout is a 1930s era steam. And I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to have some kind of turntable.
Your pictures are behind your window there, your Zoom window. There you go.
And
That's nice.
frankly, I was excited about trying to build a conventional beam in the center with trucks and curved track at the bottom. It seemed like a mechanical nightmare to me. And I had spent several decades building astronomical telescope mounts. And I know you can put hardware together that will not need the underneath support. And then very magically, and the timing was beautiful, the March 2017 NMRA magazine came in with this picture in it. And of course, this does not use a pit with curved track and wheels. So that solved my problem. Now I have to admit, I've not found this kind of a turntable anywhere. I've actually gone to try to find real turntables built this way, and I haven't been able to find one. So I have to admit right up front that my project is probably not very findable or usable other than for a model. But this is the picture that I built everything based on for the turntable. I use SolidWorks to do all my design work along with Third Planet. And so this was the first 3D drawing prototype of my turntable. This table in the center is only supported by the shaft of the motor. So that has to be fairly beefy. And in my case, the servo motors that I'm using will hold up a good sized telescope. So I didn't really feel that I had any give or sag problems with an unsupported table. I decided also that I wanted the spurs to be mounted directly to the framework rather than mounted to the table unsupported. And I think this turned out to be a really good approach too, because you have control completely over where things are in relation to the turntable, height, angle, etc. The underside of this looks like this. This is the servo motor, and it's a gear-headed servo motor. And there is a home switch. So rather than having sensors at each spur, when you power the turntable up, it seeks to the home switch. And then every position around from there is a certain number of encoder ticks from the home position. And that has also worked very well. I've been using it now for close to 3 years, and I've never had it fail to line up with a track. This is the way it looked in its early building stages. Again, referring back to the drawing, everything is 1/4" aluminum and 1x2 oak. And my first dry run looked like this. I don't have, this is an 11-inch turntable, so it's not very big. It's appropriate for a switching yard but I wouldn't want to try to put a 2662 on it. Here it is mounted to the actual layout. Again, you can see the wiring. One thing that I did was I hardwired the track on the table. So the wires that supply power to the table track actually rotate with the table. There's no slip electrical connections. That requires that you not be able to turn the table more than 360 degrees. And so again, with the home switch concept and distances from the home switch, it's not possible for the table to get away from you and ruin wiring inside. And here's the way the finished layout. Well, this was the first attempt at getting the houses in place, the maintenance houses. And you can see that I've covered the turntable with lumber. I haven't got the A-frame in it here in this picture, but that's coming along I'm using it also out of lumber. Now, you might say, well, okay, where do I get all these parts? So let me go to my list of parts here. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yep.
These are the components. It's a harmonic drive gearhead made by a company called Harmonic Drive, and it has no backlash. So coming at a given spur from one direction or the other, there's no alignment issues at all. The gearhead has a 50-to-1 ratio, and then the servo motor has 4,000 ticks per servo motor revolution. So there's 200,000 discrete points that I can pick to line up to a track. Again, the table is 11 inches in diameter, has a circumference of 34 and a half or so. That means it's only 17 100,000ths of a tick per tick. That means there's 247 ticks just to go the width of the track top, the railhead. So I've got more accuracy than I know what to do with. This is the JR Kerr servo hardware that drives it. The micro switch, DC power supplies, and I use a Digitrax auto reverser so that if you do a 180-degree turn, you end up with a mismatch between the table track and the exit track. This fixes that. No matter where you're at, you're never going to get a short between the wheels. All the software is written in Microsoft Visual Basic. It's compiled and loaded onto the PIC processor board. And like I said, it's been working fantastically. Now, I had a rather easy time of this because this is all hardware that had been used in the prototyping process of my company's building telescope mounts for NASA and Lockheed and others. And this is expensive. But you can accomplish exactly the same thing with a NEMA 23 or a 34 stepper motor. The discrete steps on a stepper motor are very accurate. You can buy these for $20 or $30, and the power supply, depending on where you find it, it can be in the same price range. And then for those of you who are Arduino programmers, that's the way you would program your system. Now I've got 7 spurs, and I have 7 buttons on my operator panel. And so I can go directly to any track, from any track, directly without having to stop at the intermediate places. So that's my project, and I'm really happy with how it went. And if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to take them.
I have a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Tim, I'm very happy to see that you're using an actual micro switch instead of one of those cheap Chinese copies. I used to work for Micro Switch.
I've probably got 200 of them in the field in my mounts, and they've never failed.
Nope, they don't.
It's a roller rocker ball, micro switch.
Right,
So it's
you got
really easy to
BZ.
make the cam roll over and make
Right.
contact.
So many people just cheap out and go for the Chinese stuff, and I guess in your business you can't do that. It's not worth it.
There are some people that have successfully used IR sensors with an emitter, but in the astronomy business, there's a lot of IR in the sun, so you've got to try to keep that all out of the inside of the mount. So I chose the mechanical approach.
Cool.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
This is Paul Wilfong. A couple of questions. First, just approximately how much that SolidWorks and other stuff costs you to, if I want to do something like that myself? Is that real expensive? Those things?
SolidWorks comes in a bunch of different modules, and the minimum is about $1,500 purchase price.
Okay. Next question would be, how do you fashion or machine those aluminum pieces? Do you have access to machine tools, or what would you recommend for someone who's out here who doesn't have that stuff, if any?
I actually used a benchtop milling machine that I got from one of the hobby machining stores.
Yeah.
And I had to be careful. I mean, I'm working with 1/4-inch aluminum, so you can't be real much in a hurry. But I managed to make all the aluminum pieces with that single piece of hardware.
What safety approach do you take? Do you have something that sucks up the aluminum dust or whatever comes out of that, or what do you do?
The parts are not airborneable. They're pretty, there's enough material there that you can cut yourself on them. So you just need a good brush and a vacuum.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Oh, I know. One more question. Would you consider writing an article about this? I mean, it's great stuff, and maybe something for one of the model magazines would be cool.
I've been considering it. I've not actually started to write anything, but this was my first attempt at putting this idea out in front of other people. And I will take your comments as an encouragement.
You already got the photos.
Yes, absolutely.
Or illustrations. Anyway, thanks so much. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm going to stop your share here.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tim before we move on to our next feature presentation? Okay. All right.
Comment on the design software. I'm using Autodesk Fusion 360 on a hobby license, which you can download for free. And it's basically runs as a web-based type of program, and you can do 3D design with that too.
Thanks. I'm getting that noted.
That works very well, by the way.
All right. Are we ready? I'll introduce the next session if there's any last minute questions. Thank you so much, Tim and John, for volunteering to do that for us. All right. I've just about gathered myself together, not entirely, but I'm almost there. And I'd like to introduce Anthony Reidenhauer and his staff from the San Diego Model Railroad Museum as they give us a tour of the museum on Zoom. Are you ready, Anthony?
Yeah,
All right,
awesome.
it's yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Would like to first thank Rudy and Ryan and Trudy for working with us to get this presentation put together for you guys. I see a lot of familiar faces here, but a few folks that I don't know. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm Anthony Ridenauer. I am the Executive Director at the San Diego Model Railroad Museum. I have been with the Model Railroad Museum since 2004. I came up as the records clerk under the founding director, John Rotzart. And then when John Rotzart retired in 2012, I took over for him to become the director of the Model Railroad Museum. Incidentally, it was on April 1st of 2012. So it was a big April Fool's joke, and I've been there ever since. So coming up on now almost 9 years as the executive director, and it's been a lot of fun, and what we get to do for the community is really a great honor. Some people may not know about model railroading in Balboa Park, but it traces its roots back to the 1935 California Pacific International Exposition. It was here that we had Minton Cronkite, who was a model railroad pioneer, and he displayed his model of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. This was the layout that we feel surely inspired others within San Diego to form groups and create their own model railroad layouts. Groups like the San Diego Model Railroad Club, which took up residence in the House of Charm, which is now the Mingay Museum in Balboa Park, until the late 1970s. When the city decided to utilize that space for other attractions, it was then that the San Diego Model Railroad Club would join forces with the La Mesa Model Railroad Club. They had just lost its space at that time recently in La Mesa. They were in the old Nebo Hall there. The two groups joined together and petitioned the city of San Diego for a newly rebuilt electric building that had been the victim of the arson fire in 1978. They were joined shortly after by the San Diego Society of N-Scale and incorporated in 1980 to become the San Diego Model Railroad Museum. The building, now known as the Casa de Balboa building, would go on to house the largest and only accredited model railroad museum here in North America. The club is supported by 4 different railroad clubs. We have the Model Railroad Association, formerly the San Diego Model Railroad Club. We have the La Mesa Model Railroad Club, the SD Sons, and the SD Three Railers Club. The 4 clubs, they maintain all of the model railroads that you see, all of the exhibits, and make sure that they're operating for the public when we're open. So we'll be giving you a brief peek at each of these layouts throughout the presentation. It's my understanding that I believe there is going to be more in-depth presentations of each of the clubs further down the line at some of the other PSR meets. So we'll be giving you just a little scratch of the surface of what we've got to offer at the San Diego Model Railroad Museum. So first, what I'll do is I'll introduce you to each of the staff that'll be presenting in the various departments. And we're going to start tonight with our gift store manager, Brandy Wilson. We'll then take you to our education department, where Julia McMeans, our director of education, will give you a brief overview of all the amazing programming we do to promote model railroading in the schools. And then we'll go on to Margaret Harris, who is our curator of collections. She's going to give you a sneak peek into the museum's collection and talk about the resources that we have and how you can utilize them as a model railroader. And then finally, we'll end up in the museum's development and membership department with Amanda Ochoa. She's going to give you a brief overview of how you can become a member, any of the opportunities that how you can get involved with the San Diego Model Railroad Museum. So we'll go ahead and we'll skip over to the gift shop with Brandy, and she's going to give you a brief presentation of what we've got in our museum gift store.
All There we go. All right. There we go. So hi, I'm Brandy. Welcome to the San Diego Model Railroad Museum. As you can see, the museum gift shop carries a variety of wonderful items for the train lover, toys for little ones, apparels and books for all ages, collectibles and modeling how-to manuals and DVDs, and of course, train sets, just in time for Christmas. We even have artwork from local artists. Now, unfortunately, because of the COVID, the gift shop is currently closed, but we are available online for those who wish to purchase gifts for the train aficionado in their life. If it's jerking, I'm sorry, I'm walking around on my knees. There you go.
And it's should also be noted that the museum, we have a number of different items available on eBay from different things that we have donated. So you can go to our website and go to our gift shop page, and it'll also send you to our what we are calling the online swap meet. So you can find rolling stock there, track, buildings, kits, all kinds of different things on our eBay site as well. Eddie's actually going to take us over to our first layout stop. The first layout that we're going to be viewing is the San Diego and it's the San Diego Model Railroad Association's Cabrillo and Southwestern. So we'll wait for them to bring that up. There it is. So the Cabrillo and Southwestern is a 2,700 square foot O-scale freelance model of an imaginary prototype running between San Diego and Sacramento. O-scale was one of the first, obviously, the first scales in which modelers attempted true representations of the real world. It was very popular in the 1930s and 40s. And this layout actually features a electric trolley line that receives its power from an overhead catenary system. We actually, for a while, were housing some of Minton Cronkite's trains on this exhibit because Minton Cronkite also worked in O-scale as well. So Eddie will take you a little bit down. And this, there are portions of this layout that I believe were part of the original layout back in the House of Charm before we had to move it to the Casa de Balboa. So it's a standard runs in a loop, but as you can see there, there's lots of different levels and lots of things to say, including a narrow gauge mountain line over here in the corner, which we're about to pan to. So a lot of fun. That's kind of your first stop on the, as you come into the model railroad. And of course, they've got a number of different accessories and things like that that the kids just absolutely love. All right, we're going to move along to our education department. So we would like to introduce you to Julia McMeans. Julia is the Director of Education here at the Model Railroad Museum. She's been with us for a few years now and has developed an amazing amount of curriculum that we present to the schools and various people. So go ahead, Julia.
Hi everyone, welcome. And we are actually standing in the classroom at the San Diego Model Railroad Museum, which has been converted into a distance learning studio because of COVID. So our education department is small but mighty. We service about 3,000 students a year and we're growing. We have a STEAM for School selection of programs, and underneath that banner, we have 3 programs that we deliver to school-age kids. One of those programs is called Communities Then and Now, Making a 3D Model. And this is a program geared towards TK, that means transitional kindergarten, so 4-year-olds to 2nd graders. So one of the things you learn at that age in school is what a community is. And you also learn to compare and contrast how people in the past are alike and different from people today. So we're very well positioned to provide a program like this because we have several replicas of historic California railroads. So students actually come into the museum, they look at these replicas, they can see how people lived in the past and compare it to how people live now. And then when they're finished doing that, they come upstairs to this classroom and they make a 3D model that looks something like this. So just very appropriate for very young children. The second program we have is called the Able Arch and the Trusty Truss. This program is modeled, it's a civil engineering program. It's very STEAMy or STEMmy, as that's the big buzzword these days. And it uses, teaches kids about shapes that civil engineers use to build structures that have to support heavy things like railroads. So we teach them all about truss bridges and arch bridges, and they do all kinds of experiments like here. And that's a very popular program. That's for 3rd through 8th graders. And then finally, we are a scale model museum. So of course we have a scale model workshop, and it's called Working with Scale, where students use the appropriate math to scale objects up and down. And then they learn about the different scales that we have in the museum, you know, H, O, O, G, and so forth. And then they make these scale model robots that they take back to their classroom. In addition to our school programs, we also have scout programs for Girl and Boy Scouts, and they earn a San Diego Model Railroad Museum STEAM patch. We also have summer camps that are extremely popular. This year, unfortunately, we had to do all those camps virtually, but it still worked out pretty well. And it was kind of really interesting for us because it was virtual. We had students from all over the country, which is unusual for us, and we really enjoyed it. And finally, we have a program that is available online, which is also available to anybody across the country, called Building a Model Railroad. And it just teaches people, mostly kids, just the very basics of model railroading. So laying down track and cork bed and, you know, making a sculpture and, you know, decorating it with scenery and people. So if you want to learn anything more about our programs, we have videos on our website that shows the ARCH program in action. We also have free downloadable curriculum, and you can find that on our website under the Learn tab. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Julia. So the next layout that we're going to be looking at here, and we're going to look at a couple on this stop. We're going to look at the San Diego and Arizona Eastern, which is, again, built and maintained and operated by the San Diego Model Railroad Association. This is a 4,500 HO scale layout that models the prototype railroad of the same name, connecting San Diego with El Cajon and El Centro. The area you're looking at right here is El Centro on the cam. The San Diego, San Ysidro, and San Diego El Cajon portions are now part of the San Diego Trolley. This layout features an impressive 10-foot high model of the Carrizo Gorge, north of Jacumba, in eastern San Diego County, and the Goat Canyon Trestle. The actual trestle was the largest timber railroad trestle in the world at the time. And it, of course, because of where it's located and all of the rough terrain, this particular railroad gained the moniker of the Impossible Railroad. And it's been part of the museum from as early as we're just about as early as we've been around, and it is a wonderful exhibit. And if you haven't seen our version of the Goat Canyon Trestle, you should come down and take a look, because it is pretty magnificent. And all the people that work in this particular club and this layout, they do such great work, and it's a lot of fun. And this layout is really great because there's so many little vignettes that you can see all kinds of different things. And one of the things you guys probably know about model railroading is sometimes some of the guys have great senses of humor. So you can see really funny little things happening, people sneaking into our drive-in theater. You can see interiors of the buildings where there's different kinds of, I think in the church, we've got a pipe organist playing and all kinds of great things like that in this layout. So, excuse me. So a lot of great detail at the San Diego Model Railroad Club. And of course, if you want to get involved with any of the clubs, you can go to our website and check out our exhibits, and there's connections and emails and phone numbers for any one of the clubs if you want to come down and get involved with the San Diego Model Railroad Association or any of our other clubs. The next stop on our layout tour is the Pacific Desert Lines. This exhibit is built, maintained, and operated by the San Diego Society of N-Scale. It's an N-scale size model that depicts a railroad east of San Diego that might have been. The tiny trains run along a proposed route surveyed for the San Diego and Arizona Railroad north of the Mexican border. The main yard was inspired by plans drawn from 1907 for a large yard in San Diego. Minute and enchanting detail captures people camping, surfing, kite flying, and pondering probably one of our most talked about pieces, which is the museum's pool shark, as you can see there. Exquisite renditions of the San Diego Santa Fe Depot, harbor scene, and the Goat Canyon Trestle in Carrizo Gorge demonstrate the phenomenal measure of patience and precise engineering it takes to do N-scale. And you have to have really good eyesight. So as long as you have good eyesight or good glasses and actually a decent amount of space, you can put a lot into a small amount of space with N-scale layout. So it's very attractive to a lot of home modelers just because of the size and how much you can fit in a small amount of space. And the team here has been doing a lot of work on the different scenery and things like that, and putting in some LED lighting. And it's really come a long way, even just since I've been there. So the N-scale is and they were actually one of our first exhibitors when we opened up in 1981 for the Christmas season. So next we're going to move on to our collections and library. We'll go back up to the education department, and Margaret's going to provide a few examples of what we've got in our collections and tell you about all the different resources we have for model railroaders up there.
Hi, everyone. As Anthony said, my name is Margaret Harris, and I reside in the Ted Haas collections room. And you may not have seen my face if you come in because I'm often tucked away in my little room, squirreling away with all of our awesome artifacts here. So as I did too, we also have an amazing Minton Cronkite collection, which is the second largest, second only to the Chicago Science Museum. It's some museum in Chicago. Either way, it's really cool, and we're very fortunate to have it. And beyond that, we have well over 3,000 other models and railroading memorabilia, timetables, etc. That's in the collections room. And then we also have our fantastic library, which has seemingly infinite resources for modelers, which is over 34,500 objects, which includes about 6,000 books, 1,000 timetables, and then thousands and thousands of photos and slides, including our amazing Brenda Bailey collection. And you can go access that through our website. The library has its own tab, and you can see our whole collection and decide, if we have something that you need to see, you're welcome to come in. Of course, when the museum is open. For right now, you can reach out to the museum or to the library directly to see if we can scan it to you or arrange some sort of way of getting the information to you. And then, speaking of when we get to reopen again, we will be partnering with an awesome organization up in LA called Walt's Barn, which has the awesome collection of trains and artifacts that Walt Disney had on his property and on Carrollwood Drive, because many people don't know, but he was an avid modeler as well as a animator and everything else we know about Disney. So that will be wonderful. And alongside that, we're going to have Jeff Inu, the curator of Walt's Barn, is going to be giving a lecture as part of our Modeler Citizens series, which you can also find through the Learn tab. And we will have one coming up this next Thursday at 6 p.m. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Great. Thanks, Margaret. We're going to move on to our third layout stop. And the third layout stop is the Tehachapi Pass exhibit. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there. And that is actually maintained and operated by the La Mesa Model Railroad Club. Many of you probably know quite a bit about them. In addition to modeling, they also do some pretty intense recreations from timetable and train order ops. And they have that, at least a couple of them a year. This year, you know, we're maybe not able to do them just because of the pandemic, but we do have them. And people tell me that it's about as close as you're going to get to working on the railroad without actually working on the railroad. This particular exhibit represents about the entire 70 miles of railroad between Bakersfield and Mojave, California. Building a replica of this line has challenged modelers, just as the pass itself challenged the railroad barons of a century ago. The single track railroad built through a notch in the Tehachapi Mountains carries nearly all north-south rail traffic between Central and Southern California. In several places, the line doubles back on itself, making it an ideal candidate for modeling. The model is unique not only for its size, but for its geographic fidelity. Literally thousands of photographs and prototypes have been used to ensure that each detail closely models the features of the real area. And many of the guys I know utilize our research library that we were just talking about, use the topo maps, use aerial photographs. A lot of the guys go up there and photograph the areas themselves. So, and of course, you won't be able to see it today, but we have our version of the world famous Tehachapi Loop, which is even in scale model is pretty incredible. So these guys have done an amazing job. And one of our core samples of just the best of model railroading that we have to offer. And it's an incredible team there. Of course, they have youth programs as well. So does the San Diego Model Railroad Association. So if you know any youngsters that are between, I think, over the ages of 11 or 12, they can join up and be a part of this awesome team and help us carry the hobby well into the future. Over to Eddie's left, or as he pans right, we're going to show you our temporary exhibit space. This is the Pacific Beach Club Room, named after the Pacific Beach Club. And here we host a number of different exhibits. Right now we have our Iron Women exhibit. And as Margaret mentioned, we have our Carolwood Barn exhibit coming up, which is the Trains of Walt Disney. So now I know we're running short on time, so we want to keep things moving. We're going to go up to our membership and development. And then we'll stop on our layout stop, our fourth layout stop after that. So we're going to go back to the education department and talk with Amanda Ochoa. Amanda.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Ochoa, and I am the Membership and Development Manager at the museum. So first off, we are going to discuss membership very briefly. So our members make up the heart of our institution and assure the museum that we can continue our mission through their regular support. I went through and looked at the list and I recognized some of your names, so thank you for being members of the museum. We offer different levels of membership and they all vary by the amount of people that are able to get in. So, you know, one person at the $35 level, 2 adults at the $50 level plus children, and so on and so forth. You receive unlimited entry to our galleries all year long for the duration of 12 months. In addition to discounts to the gift shop, to special events. And then as the museum is part of the San Diego Museum Council, we also are able to offer our members, along with members from other museums around the county, opportunities to come and do seasonal exchanges. So our members get to visit other museums and other members from other museums get to visit us at the same time for free a couple times a year. And the other level of membership that we have is our lifetime membership, which starts at $700. You receive unlimited entry for life. And on top of that, so you get all the other benefits as well, like a regular annual member. But then you also receive additional 10 guest passes per year. And then as a lifetime member, as well as a personalized engraved granite railroad tie that we get to install for you in our Railroad Walk of Fame, which you can find throughout the walkways of our galleries. The other part of my job that I do under development is I seek out grants from foundations that have like-minded areas of service when it comes to education or collections, general operating funds. I also do a lot of, I find opportunities for donation drives. Right now, we have just launched our 40th anniversary capital campaign. We are celebrating 40 years in 2021 of when the museum first opened, so which is very exciting. So we're raising $40,000, and we're looking to raise $40,000 before the end of this year so we can kick off 2021 on the right foot. But throughout the course of 2021, we'll be doing a lot of celebrations for this particular milestone that we've just reached. So if you're interested in giving, you can go to sdmrm.org/donate, and you can make a gift there. It's tax deductible, or you can reach out to me. My contact information is there if you're interested in becoming a member of the museum, whether on an annual or lifetime level, or if you would just like to give. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, Amanda. All right, now on to our last layout stop on our tour. This is the 20 Train Gallery. It is put together by the San Diego Three Railers Club. Kids of all ages and around the expansive state-of-the-art multi-level action-packed operating layout. They love this place. Volunteer operators answer hundreds of questions that bring their own trains to run, providing constant change. We have a lot of animated, different kinds of buildings, a lot of things going on this layout. It is definitely a very, very popular place with the kids. In fact, every time I'm at the museum and I hear a crying child leaving, saying, "I don't want to go," I just say to myself, another satisfied customer. So we love the fun and uniqueness of this particular layout, and is actually award-winning layout, has won the Blue Comet Award at least a couple times since its inception at the museum. So there's a little bit of interactivity, and these guys constantly change stuff out. I think right now they've got the holiday module in. They have an in module on the other side that for each holiday they change out. So from the summer to Halloween to a wintertime scene, and then other scenes throughout the year. So a lot of fun. I know these guys have a lot of fun, and really, really great representation of three rails. So if you like Lionel trains, Lionel style trains, this is definitely the club for you. So that actually completes our layout tour. I hope that we've been able to give you guys a brief view of what we do at the Model Railroad Museum. And in closing, I hope that this inspires you all to become involved. I hope that you'll come down and join a club or run at a club or come in for one of our various operating sessions when we're able to do that again. And also hope that you'll come in and use our library if you need any resources. It's a great place to come down and just immerse yourself in the model railroading hobby, talk to like-minded individuals that love model railroading. And as Amanda presented, this is our 40th anniversary of our public opening. And we just couldn't be more proud of all the club members, all the museum staff, and our museum volunteers that have made this place a special place as it is today. And we hope you guys will come down and actually be a part of what we do. So thank you guys so much for the time today. If you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. I can't hear anybody. Are we good?
Anybody have any questions for Anthony or his staff? Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you for the tour.
Thank you guys so much for having us. We really appreciate it. And we love all the work that the NMRA and the Pacific Southwest region does as well. So let's keep the hobby alive and get some youngsters involved and keep things going.
Yeah, you did a great job on the origins of the museum.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Steve. I recognize that voice anywhere.
All right. Thank you so much, Anthony.
All right.
All right. So, and whoever helped me out with spotlight. I'm sure that was you, Anthony. Thank you, because I actually lost connection again in the middle of that. So thanks for the help. And we're going to move forward to our clinic. I'd like see Pete, are you ready to give your clinic on resistor wheels?
Right after I unmute, yes, I am.
Okay.
So let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm Pete Steinmetz, and a little background here on why I'm doing this clinic. I'm a member of the North County Model Railroad Society, and we put in a very sophisticated signaling system. Locomotives, no problem. They show up very well on our block detection system, and it shows which block they're in. But locomotive could move into the next block, and his whole train could be sitting in the previous block, which without resistor wheels will show that it is unoccupied. When we're dispatching, somebody could be coming in behind that and run right into the back of the train. So one of the things we decided to do is we put some resistors on the wheels, for sure, of all the cabooses that we use, and also a lot of the cars that we use that'll be bringing up the rear of the train. It's worked out well. What the method that I have found, and I've done, I think 150 wheel sets for people at the club. I developed a method to do these that is very easy to use and inexpensive. You can go out and buy these resistor wheels if you want to, but they're about $3 per axle. What I make is $1 or less, depending on the quantities that you buy the materials in. So let me tell you how I do this. It's pretty slick. I primarily use intermountain wheel sets. Find that they fit in most axles. There used to be a company out that made ones that fit exactly in each axle, like you'd get a one for a KD car, you'd get one for an Intermountain car or whatever. I've settled on Intermountain axles, wheels and axles. They come in 33 and 36 inch. Primarily I use the 33s. They also come in some 28 inches, but they're a little bit more difficult to come by. Let me just switch cameras around here a little bit, and we'll get into it, and I will show you how I do this. So one of the things that you have to do on these is you have to determine which wheel is insulated, because that's the one you want to put the resistor across. Easiest way to do that I have found is to run a continuity. So continuity, you get a connection, and it makes a funny little noise. So I take put it on the metal axle. Okay. So that is the uninsulated side, and this other side that makes no noise. Let me get over here. So I'm actually the other side that makes no noise is the insulated side, and that's the side we're going to use. Now, what do I do when I do a bunch of these? Because I do a lot of them at a time. I take and I make sure that the insulated side is facing me, and all of them are the same. It works well, because otherwise you're going to get into a mess if you do the wrong side. It's not going to work out very well. And sometimes keeping track of which ones are which is a little more difficult. I use a glue called Crafter's Pick. It is the ultimate non-toxic water-based super glue. And let me show you how I do this. I use two different sizes of resistors, which we'll get into in a minute. Why I use two different sizes. They're both the same value. And that's one of the things that you need to keep together. Like our club chose 10K as the value. So that's great. Every resistor we put on is 10K. I buy them from DigiKey. I think Mike is going to put up the part number for them, and they're all sourced through DigiKey. Two sizes, 2512, which this is a 2512 size, which looks minuscule, but actually in surface mount stuff, it's pretty darn big. And then I use a 2010 for some other applications, and I will explain that in a minute. So, handy device, crafter's pick. I use toothpicks, just plain old round toothpicks. Hopefully everybody can see this because it's very small. I take that and I put just a little bit right along the end where the wheel face, wheel face and the axle. Then I take one of my resistors, carefully picking it up with tweezers. I set it right along here. The trick with this is to make sure that the face, that the one end of the resistor is touching the face of the wheel, and the other end of the resistor is touching the axle. Okay? And then I let this dry for a little while. Just like on the cooking shows where they do something and they say, oh, and now we're going to pop it in the oven. And then 10 seconds later, they pull out a fully cooked meal. I've already glued one on here, and this glue is set. It takes 15 minutes to set. If you're doing, say, 10 axles, by the time you get done doing the 10th, the first one will be set up enough. Then I take something called wire glue. Wire glue's pretty cool stuff. I buy this on Amazon, mostly just because it's easy. Basically it's a conductive glue. Now, I don't use it to actually glue the resistor to the axle. And one of the reasons I don't do it is it's really not very good glue. The crafter's pick is much better glue, but it is conductive. And if you keep the top on tightly, this thing will last you for a really long time. Now, I put it on the end of the resistor, and I just run a little bead along the axle. And I do the same thing on the other end. Let me see if I can get you a bit of a close-up on this. Depth of field on this camera is not very good, but you can see completely out of focus. But let me see if I can remedy that. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So you can see that there is wire glue right here from the end of the resistor, which is conductive to the on the axle. There's a little bead, and then there's also a little bead right here at the end, going the other end, and then right onto the face. And set it aside to dry, and you're good to go. Now, the Intermountain 33s or 36-inch wheels fit in most truck side frames. They may be a little bit loose, but that seems to be okay. I've noticed that, but they run fine at the club. Proto 2000 wheels will also work. And they also, one thing you can't do is you cannot use KD wheel sets. KD wheel sets have plastic axles, so it just flat out doesn't work. I also, being as I am a frugal model railroader, I reuse toothpicks. I'm sure nobody ever does that, but we go out and we spend hundreds of dollars on an engine, yet we reuse toothpicks.
Hey,
but
Pete,
we're model railroaders.
Hey, Pete, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions, ask away. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
So I'm kind of new to the resistor concept. So just to kind of get it straight in my mind, you usually put a resistor on one resistor wheel set on each truck of each piece of rolling stock that's not powered. correct?
No, yeah, okay, so a couple of things. An engine will show up because it is powered and it's got current going through it. Anything with a light on it that's taking track power, a lighted caboose, a passenger car, whatever, that will also show up because it's taking track power and making a circuit. What won't show up is just regular old freight cars. So to answer your question, what our club does is we have 2 per car, 2 axles per car are going to have a resistor wheel on them. Now, every car you have in your train doesn't need one. If you take a box car and put it towards the end, like if you have a box car with a Fred on, put resistor wheels on and they'll show up just fine. Now, some of the Ring Engineering Freds, they take track power, so they're fine. You don't need resistor wheels on them. I do some Freds with battery power that have no connection to the track, so they would need the resistor wheels. Intermodal stuff, take the last car that's going to be your last car in your intermodal and do that and you'll be fine. You know, your whole train will show up and everybody will be happy. So you covered Katie. Yes.
So you're saying on every piece of rolling stock that's not powered, that doesn't have, you know, except for the locomotives and your rolling stock with power on it, any kind of rolling stock with a light on it, then you would put resistor wheels on every non-powered rolling stock. That's correct, right?
I put it on. No, you don't have to do every one. You only really have to have one at the end of your train. You're just showing the length of the train. You know, you just want your train to be you want your signaling system to know that there is a train in that block. So all you need is an engine on the front, which already covers it, and you need one car on the back that shows that has resistors on it, and that shows occupancy. You don't need to do every car. And let me show you this little doodad.
Hey, Jack Ironman asking.
Hi, Jack.
Why two axles per car?
Just for safety. Sometimes they'll fall off. Usually they don't, but it's just 2's good. You can get by with one. One will show up. You know, so the guys that want you to do 4, it's kind of a waste because you don't need 4. Let me show you something here. This is a Santa Fe caboose that I have, and I put one resistor right here on this end, and I put another resistor. Oh, I guess actually on this car, I put them both on the same truck, but a lot of times I'll do one here and one here. This one has them both on the same one. Now, one of the things you get into, why I mentioned earlier, 2 sizes. This is the 2512 size resistor. 2512 is simply a size, has nothing to do with the value of the resistor. It's just the size of the package. There's another one. Let me see if I can find a little doodad here. Here's a smaller one, which is a 2010. I know this stuff is tough to see, but the 2010 is, I would say it's about half the size of the 2512, just roughly. And I use that when there's clearance issues. Sometimes when you have cars, they have equipment here and the resistor does not, a 2512 will not clear it. So you need the 2010 in there. Same value resistor, a little bit smaller, a little bit harder to work with just because you've got smaller surface areas, but it does exactly the same thing. Mike, I think, put up a chat room link. It shows both of the parts, both of the part numbers for the resistors that I use that I buy from DigiKey. And it also shows the whole instruction manual that I've written for myself that I'm going over. So it'll tell you pretty much everything I'm telling you. So the important things is check to make sure you're doing the right axle. Some of them you can see which axle is insulated, and some of you can't. And if you just run a quick continuity, you'll be able to tell.
So can I ask another question just to make sure I
You
have
can ask as many questions as you want.
Okay, so I just want to get it in my head since I'm so new to this. So you only put the resistors on the insulated side because you're trying to get the resistor to go from the one wheel set to the axle where there is no electrical connection because of the insulation. That's correct?
Right, correct. You're making a circuit.
Okay, and so when you first put your first type of glue down, that's just to hold the resistor on. And then, but you want to make sure your resistor ends are both on the wheel set and the other resistor ends on the axle, because you need to make that electrical connection. And then you're saying you put the wire glue on top to make sure there's an electrical connection.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, the wire glue, because you'd have to be very precise with using your crafter's pick glue to glue the resistor to the axle. The wire glue just it's just electrical connection, makes a good electrical connection.
Oh, so then did you put the wire glue all the way across too?
No, I just touched it.
On each end of the resistor.
Yep, I just put it on this end of the resistor, touching the axle to make a connection, and then I put it on this end of the resistor, just on the top of it, and then on to making sure that there's a bead that runs to the wheel face.
Just because you want to make sure you have a good electrical connection.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yes, I want a good electrical connection. I can't depend on just just gluing the resistor down. Just insurance. That way I have 100% success rate, because it always works.
And then someone's asking, are you using, what ohm value are you using?
10K.
And then why did you have two different resistor sizes? I don't understand.
Because sometimes that larger resistor, the 2512, will catch on stuff on the car itself or the caboose. It just depends. I've just found some that the 2512 just gets hung up. And so I use a smaller one and it doesn't.
Oh, you mean the resistor gets hung up on the truck?
On something on the car, on the bottom of the car.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Also, you can use the 2010s would work well on N scale.
Oh, okay.
Because we do have some N scale modelers.
Pete, I know it's a silly question. The wire glue is no substitute in general for soldering, is it?
No, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier. When I first started
No, I
doing
know.
this,
That's what I'm thinking. I'd rather glue all my electrical connections and solder them, but I know that's ridiculous.
Well, I found the solder was a mess. It just was messy, because you had to heat up the axle wasn't too bad, but trying to get the face of the wheel hot enough.
But I'm talking about things like gluing my feeder wires to track. I'd love to be able to do that.
You probably could, but I wouldn't think that this particular wire glue was good for that.
That's what I think too.
You could try. There's some stuff called, and I used it. It didn't work. Let's see, where is it? I had my notes. Oh, silver epoxy adhesive. I bought some of that on a tube of it on Amazon. Figured, hey, this will work great. Well, it was so messy, and it made such a mess, and it was like, I don't know, 10 times the expense of this wire glue that did the same thing, that I abandoned it. That might work for gluing rail or for gluing like feeder wires to rail, because
I'm not serious about this, but it should be nice someday to have a real reliable glues like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are. It just depends on how you use them. Wire glue works great for this, but it didn't work very well for actually holding the resistor on. That's why I went to that first step of the crafter's pick. Also, crafter's pick is this is really good. It's what was it? It was $5.99 at Hobby Lobby, and as long as you keep the top on it, I've had this for a couple of years, and I've used very little, but it's great stuff. It's real versatile. The other one is the canopy glue that a lot of the military modelers use it to hold their canopies or their clear plastic parts on, because if you try to do that with CA, it'll fog up the clear plastic. The canopy glue won't. Excellent stuff. Everybody should have both of these. But then that's another clinic, my glue clinic.
Yep.
Who
Thanks,
else?
Hey, yeah, Pete, this is Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Do you ever worry about, let's say, the length of a train and having your locomotive and just the caboose picking up the signal or the occupancy signal with, let's say, let's say you've got a train that's longer than just a block. In other words, you can get a block between the locomotive and the caboose. We had that problem on the N scale in the museum when we did our signaling system.
Yes. In that case, all you do is put a resistor, like a box car or a freight car with the resistor wheels in the middle of your train.
Yeah,
And then you're good.
that's what we did. That's what we ended up doing too.
Our blocks at North County, I mean, I don't usually run long enough trains that I need something in the middle because the blocks are quite long and our sidings are not as long as the blocks. So it would be difficult to operate because there's a lot of single track up there. But yeah, just you can put as many cars with resistor wheels in a train as you want. I'm just saying minimum is something at the front, like a loco, and then something at the back.
Okay, so we had a little question here for you. They said someone made a comment that the reason for resistor wheels is so that the cars will show up on the current detector. These are used for signaling the location of trains on a layout with CTC machines. And the comment was, it's sometimes important to have a resistor wheel on each car and not just the beginning and the end, so that if the train crosses 2 blocks, it shows up on all the blocks. Can we talk about that? Because
sure.
And I do know of a club. I'm not sure if I should mention the name. They do want resistor wheels on all pieces of rolling stock because they kind of have a thing where they have a really long trains. It's kind of typical to have long trains. Any comment on that?
I think we just covered.
Yeah, it gets back to what Steve and I were just talking about. Just put them in the middle. You know, if you're going to span blocks because your train is so long, just have them, put 1 or 2 in the middle, and then you don't have that problem. Personally, I think that putting one on every, having every car have it, while it's nice, it's kind of overkill because you really don't need that. But different strokes for different folks.
Okay.
Also, Pete, when the train enters a block, you've got the locomotive in the front block and the caboose still in the rear block behind it.
Correct.
They'll both show occupied, correct?
They will. Yes, exactly. And if you have really long trains, then you just put a car or 2 in the middle, and it'll show up in case they, there's 3 blocks, and the locos in block 1, and the trains in block 2, and the cabooses in block 3. That way, you still get occupancy in all 3 blocks.
So Pete, just for devil's, advocate kind of thing, or it's not wrong to have resistor wheels on every single piece of rolling stock, but you think it's overkill, is what you're saying.
I just think it's really not needed. But once again, if you have them on every one, you don't have to worry about anything because all of your cars have it. If you have it, if you have it on the front and the rear and you've got long trains, then you got to worry about putting something in the middle. It's just more to keep track of.
Okay.
That's all.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Thank you.
Now, these things aren't, as you can see, this isn't really a hard thing to do. I've tried a lot of different materials and resistors and sizes and all that, and this is what I've come up with. So I kind of, I was the learning curve, and this is what I've determined works really well. Now, if you buy the Intermountain wheel sets, you can buy them 100 wheel sets, and I think it's about around $80. Arnie's used to have them on their counter where they'd sell you a little bag of them, but they don't have that anymore. I asked them; they said they haven't been able to find them, but you can find them online. The large hobby supply places have them, or eBay has them. Who else? Somebody else have questions?
Yeah, Pete, this is Gene.
Hey, Gene.
Hello.
If the end of the train has a Fred on it, that would suffice as well, would it not?
It would. If the thread is taking power from the rails, it would definitely
From the track.
suffice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Some
thank you.
threads are battery operated. The ones that Ring Engineering makes are take their power from the rails.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Pete, let me just say, this was really, putting resistors on wheel sets seemed really impossible. Excuse me, impossible for me to do. And this is so easy. It's a very easy mechanical procedure. I'm really glad you did this clinic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's really, there's not much to it. And I took I suffered the learning curve. I got a whole lot of little bags of resistors that don't fit this, and I don't know where I'm going to use them, but just throw them in the big bag of resistors and see what happens.
So, Pete, can I add a few things?
Sure, Chuck.
I mentioned a while back that I learned everything I need to know about putting resistor sets on wheels from Pete.
Oh, okay.
And since then, I've learned a few other things.
Well, share them with us.
I'm doing resistors on N scale, and so they're going to be difficult to see, I suppose.
What size are you using? The 2010s, or you got?
I'm using 1206s.
Oh, geez.
They're about half the size of what you're using.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you can see this, but there's a little bump on I guess that's my right side on the axle, and that's where that resistor sits. I also use the Crafter's Pick or Ultimate, whatever they call it, glue. That's really good stuff. One of the things you can get from your department that has all the stuff for the girls are these sanding sticks.
Oh yeah.
And I found that if I just, it takes you very quick learning, you can find out exactly where that resistor is going to sit on the axle and on the wheel. And you just rub this a couple times and it makes a nice clean spot for the wire glue.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I've done that before, not always.
You get a better connection and helps out a lot. Somebody asked about resistance on the wire glue. I use 15K resistors. Actually, I use 10, 20, 15, whatever I have on hand. I get my resistors, by the way, from, I don't know whether they're still open in your area, Fry's Electronics. I get 100 pack, and I usually get it from the Fry's down in Texas when I visit down there. 100 pack is $3.99. So that's not too bad.
No, that's good.
1206s. The other thing about the, what is it? The wire glue. If you open the top and it's pitch black, you need to stir that stuff. All right. And you stir it until it looks gray because it has the graphite in it, and that graphite settles all the time. So if you're doing a lot of wheel sets, you might even have to stir it while you're doing the wheel sets. So you want to stir it until you see a gray area come up to the top of the wire glue, and then it's going to work real well. The other comment that was made about getting wire glue across one end to the other of the resistor, if you do that, you're going to short the resistor out.
Yeah, you don't bridge it.
Don't bridge the resistor.
And you have more of a chance of that with those tiny little resistors than we do.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I file the axle and the backside of the wheel a little bit, so I get a better connection. Also, just measuring with an ohm meter after you've installed it from axle or from wheel to wheel, I'm finding that the wire glue increases my resistance of about 2K. And so that's not significant at a loss, but you certainly don't want to use it in place of a soldered connection because that's just not going to be good.
Right. Good point.
So those are the kind of things that I found out since I started doing these.
So
N scale might be a little more difficult, but again, you do a half a dozen and you're good to go. You know how to do it by then.
How many cars or how many, like on your layout, do you run them on all the cars or just a few cars or how do you do it?
Well, I've got about 400 cars on the layout, and I'm trying to get all of them done. But right now, I'm doing all the cabooses. I've got about 25 cabooses that are just about done. I've got a few freight cars finished, but it'll be a long haul to get them all done. But I don't know. I've got a couple long blocks and a number of short ones, so I could bridge a block without a detection taking place. But I don't know. I'm not too worried about running one train into another. We usually have about 6 or 7 trains running on the main line at any one time. But the railroad's big enough that my dispatcher keeps them pretty well separated. I will mention that with HO, your locomotives are drawing enough current. I've had some of my N scale locomotives actually not draw enough current if the guys don't have their headlight on, and it will not detect. So if you've got an N scale locomotive, that especially the ones from Atlas or Cato that have the split frame, just solder. Again, you'll have to clean this off, not solder, excuse me, use the wire glue, but you'll have to clean the frames and just put one of your resistors right across the frame, right across the split frame. And then it doesn't make any difference whether that locomotive's got lights on or even the motor's working, it's going to detect on the detection circuit. So
good to know. Good to know. Anybody else? Thanks, Chuck.
Pete, I got a question on power drain. Since it's resistors and it's going across the track, how much is this draining that's available to the engines?
Oh gosh, probably what, milliamps?
Nothing.
At best, nothing. I mean, you'd never notice it.
Thank you.
But that's a good question. But you would never notice it. It wouldn't affect the performance at all. That's why, some of the clubs say they want it on every wheel. I mean, if that was going to drain a lot of power, then they wouldn't want it on every wheel. Who else? That's it? Okay.
Thank you, Pete. Awesome.
Well,
You're welcome.
Hey, Pete, I just want to thank you. This is really great.
I'm glad you liked it. I mean, it's so simple and people, they don't think about it. And then once you do it, it's really not that much to it.
Yeah. So if anyone has any more suggestions or ideas that they use or questions, please speak up.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. It was interesting.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to move us along here and wrap up our session for this evening, for this afternoon. All right, so thank you, Pete, very much. And thank you also. I don't think the Model Railroad people are still here, but I will send an email directly to Anthony and thank him for presenting for us. And also thank you very much to our 2 show and tell volunteers, John and Tim. It's great to have a little bit of variety and see what people are doing. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we do have some things already kind of in the hopper planned up for December, our second Saturday. The date escapes me at the moment, but it's the second Saturday. And first off, we'll have Dan Lewis, MMR. He's a N scaler, and he is Roger. Where is he from? What part of the country is he in? Actually, I might have that information in front of me here.
He's north of Detroit in Troy, Michigan.
Okay, and he's volunteered. Roger recruited him for us. He's a volunteer to be our layout tour and our clinic next time. So it's the North Montana line of Milwaukee Road in central Montana in the fall of 1953. It's a basement layout, 18 by 25, and it depicts the actual railroad, but operations are part of the round robin group of modelers in the NCR. So that would be the division, I'm guessing. I'm not sure how the letters go, but NCR. Dan is a very prolific author of N scale in the hobby, of over 100 articles. So, I was going to show some pictures of his layout also while I was talking about that. I failed to do that. Let me just
Does Chuck know him, Dan?
What's his name?
Dan Lewis,
Yeah,
MMR.
yeah, you'll enjoy his layout. Is he not with us right now?
No.
Oh, he's not here. I'm going to show a couple pictures that I have. They were open on the computer that I started with today, but not on the computer I'm sitting on today. I had all my problems with connections.
Yeah,
So I'm going to find that for you.
Yeah, I believe he's modeling Milwaukee area, Milwaukee
Yes.
Road.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a wonderful modeler, great guy. I've been to a number of his clinics. I haven't been to his home yet, but he lives northeast of me a ways. So.
And that was the other part he's going to do here. I'm going to show you the pictures. I found them while you guys were talking. So here's some pictures from his layout, just really quickly. Here we go. And he's also going to do a clinic for us in December. So it'll be same presenter for both sections. It's called Just Roofs. So it'll feature different roofing styles, materials, modeling, and finishing effects. So things that can apply to all scales. And he's most recently published in Model Railroader in 2020 June, and Model Railroaders Craftsman in 2020 of August. Okay, and NMRA magazine in October of 2020, and he's going to be in the calendar. So the NMRA calendar in 2021. So that's
Calendar
something
just
to look
came
forward
out.
to. Pardon?
I just got the calendar yesterday.
Yes, it came in. I'm going to go look at it now. I didn't realize till I just was looking at your write-up you made for me that that's the case.
Dan's got a good picture in there.
Yeah, it's a very nice picture.
Very good.
Yeah, and the thing is that you look at those photos, that is N scale. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just is.
That scale is amazing, period.
Here, here.
Yeah.
You can see
I
it.
really like that smoke unit on the steam locomotive. It's a great
Yes.
smoke unit.
It was good, wasn't it? Yes. So December being the time we usually have a holiday party and we get together and we play reindeer games and have a meal. We're not going to be doing that this time, but in lieu of that, we wanted to kind of try to bring that into our Zoom next month. So working out the details on this, but we're going to have a modeling contest. So don't come modeling in your swimsuit, your favorite red and green swimsuit. Do not do that. But please. But we're
That's a
going
scary
to,
thought.
Yes, it is. Okay, but we're going to have a holiday modeling contest as best we can over Zoom. So this is some ideas. Create and photograph a winter scene. Create and photograph a holiday train. Or recreate and photograph a scene from your favorite holiday train greeting card. That's not an exhaustive list. If you come up with something creative to do with modeling and a holiday theme, that would be great. So we're gonna kind of work up prizes and categories, kind of like we do at our party that we have each December. Maybe something like best train, best scene, funniest, most creative. So we'll let you share your photo during our meeting and probably during the show and tell time, I'm guessing. We'll work out the details before we get there, and we'll do a popular vote. So I think I can manage a poll on Zoom if I can get it organized as things are being shown. That would be fun if I could do a poll. I don't know. We'll come up if that doesn't work. Come up with another way to do a popular vote. Barring any technical issues that I might have next month. At any rate, that's what we're thinking for the upcoming December. And I had a couple other things on my list that I just hid my list for myself. Oh, okay, just as usual, check our website, check our Facebook group. This meeting will be on YouTube to be viewed again for anybody who wants to do that as a recording. And that's all I've got. So with that, we will close and I will let you guys hang out or take off, whatever it is you need to do. Thank you so much for being here and for being patient with me on all my technical issues today.
Thanks, Ryan, everybody.
Yeah.
Were your technical issues due to the Microsoft update?
No, I think it was my router and I was using my wife's setup for work because she has a computer and 2 monitors, and it was just made it really easy last time. I had lots of space to be organized, and our internet connection just was not making it. And then it was getting confused as to where the audio and video were coming from, because I